My name is Billy Miller and I died in a tragic car accident. For as long as I can remember, I've been drawn to healing, not just the kind that mends broken bones or soothes physical wounds, but the deeper kind of healing that reaches into the tangled, fragile spaces of the heart and soul. Since childhood, I found myself instinctively reaching out to ease pain in all its forms, emotional, spiritual, unseen. I was the child who sat beside classmates who felt lonely, the teenager who volunteered at shelters, the young adult who saw nursing not just as a profession, but as a sacred calling. I was 27 when everything changed. Until then, my life had been a mosaic of quiet dedication and steady routine. I worked as a nurse in a bustling city hospital, a place where the fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, where the faint beeping of monitors became the heartbeat of my days, and where whispered thanks from patients felt like gentle affirmations of the purpose that drove me forward. Each morning I slipped into my scrubs, laced my shoes tightly, and stepped into a world teetering between suffering and hope. My shifts blended into one another, early rounds checking vital signs before dawn, administering medication, offering a hand to hold when a frightened patient needed comfort, comforting families who watched anxiously by hospital beds. There was exhaustion, certainly. There was grief, too, palpable in the sterile rooms filled with soft sobs and unfinished conversations. But there was also meaning, moments of grace that unfolded like petals in the smallest smile, the tiniest breath taken after a long struggle. I grew up in a small, quiet town, nestled between gentle hills and winding rivers. My mother was the heart of our family, a woman of unwavering strength. Stern but deeply loving, she taught me kindness not through words, but through example. She worked tirelessly, juggling 2, sometimes 3 jobs, to make sure I never lacked what mattered: food on the table, a roof over my head, and above all, a home where love was the foundation. From her, I learned resilience. From the hospital, I learned compassion. From life itself, I learned that healing was never just about the physical, it was about touching the invisible wounds too. I never asked much about what came after this life. Death was a silent shadow lurking at the edges, a door closing softly behind those who left. It was there, always, but distant, muffled. I accepted it as part of the world, but it was not a mystery I needed to solve. Life was tangible, wrapped in moments of joy and grief, laughter and tears. It was enough. But everything changed on the morning of May 3, 2024, a day etched into my soul with the precision of a master artist. The morning dawned gray and cold, the kind of morning where the sky hangs heavy like a weighted curtain and the air tastes sharp with the promise of rain. I was driving to see my mother, who had been battling a persistent illness for months. She lived alone in a modest apartment a few miles from the hospital, a small place filled with memories of my childhood, old photographs taped to the walls, and the faint scent of lavender and chamomile tea. I made it a point to visit her whenever work allowed. Those visits were lifelines, not just for her, but for me. Each time I stepped inside her apartment, the quiet comfort of home wrapped around me like a soft blanket. I found strength in her presence, even when she was too weak to speak much. That morning, the city was waking slowly. The streets were slick with early drizzle, the rain transforming streetlights into glowing halos that blurred softly through the mist. The windshield wipers swept rhythmically, a steady heartbeat to the otherwise muted world. The radio murmured the news softly in the background, voices reporting conflicts and suffering far beyond my little bubble of caregiving. The Ukrainian conflict dominated the headlines, families ripped apart, towns shattered, children with eyes too old for their years. Stories of mothers clutching their babies, terrified and exhausted, seeking shelter from bombs that fell without warning. Then there was the crisis in the Middle East, where a fragile thread of peace unraveled further with each passing day. East Africa was gripped by famine, worsened by violence and displacement. Listening to these distant tragedies, a deep ache settled inside me, a hollow feeling that stretched across continents and seas. I pictured those mothers, those doctors and nurses, so much like me, doing all they could in impossible circumstances. The world felt vast, brutal, overwhelming, and yet here I was, caught in the quiet pulse of my own small life. Lost in these thoughts, I failed to notice how the rain began to intensify. It turned the asphalt slick, dark and gleaming under the gray sky. My car, a modest, well-worn sedan that had carried me through countless shifts and life moments, suddenly lost its grip on the road. I felt it before I saw it. The unmistakable slide, a helpless drift. The tires screamed in protest against the wet pavement as the vehicle spun, caught in a wild dance with fate. The impact was sudden and terrifying, a violent, metallic crash that echoed like thunder in the confined space of the car. Glass shattered like crystalline rain, spraying shards that caught the dim light. The screech of brakes was followed by a heavy silence. But this silence was unlike any I had known. It wasn't cold or empty. It was vast and deep, a hollow so complete that it swallowed sound, movement, and even time itself. In that silence, I felt my body lying still, broken and heavy. But my consciousness began to rise, slowly, gently, like a balloon drifting upward, free from the weight of flesh and pain. I floated above the wreckage, looking down at flashing red and blue lights, emergency responders rushing to the scene with practiced urgency, voices calling out commands sharp and clear. A profound calm settled over me, unlike any I had ever experienced in waking life. It was as if a gentle hand had lifted me out of chaos and placed me in a realm where time moved differently, where pain did not exist. Before me stretched a garden unlike any I had ever seen, a place bathed in golden light, warm and welcoming. The grass beneath my feet shimmered with an almost musical vibration, flowers swayed as if breathing softly in a silent melody. The sky was not blue or gray but a glowing source of pure light and warmth, embracing me like a long-lost friend. And there, in the heart of this radiant place, I saw him. Not the frozen, distant image from stained glass windows or old paintings, no. This was a living, breathing presence. Jesus. His eyes held a depth of compassion so immense it reached into the very core of my being. They saw me fully, my fears, my doubts, my pain, but also my longing to love and to heal. He approached me slowly, his steps echoing a quiet power. When he gently placed his hand on my shoulder, an overwhelming peace poured through me, flooding out every shred of fear or uncertainty. Billy, he spoke softly, his voice rich and calming, your life has been a beacon for many, a light in the darkness for those in need. But what you are about to see will reveal the vastness of the world's struggle, and the hope that still shines through. The garden dissolved like mist, and suddenly I was soaring above the earth. Cities twinkled beneath me, roads weaving patterns across continents. I saw faces, countless faces, people living, suffering, hoping. Over Ukraine, I witnessed scenes of destruction, families huddled in basements, children clutching toys that now seemed relics from a distant life, streets shattered by bombings. I felt their fear and exhaustion as if it were my own. I saw a young girl, no older than 7, clutching a tattered doll as her mother whispered soothing words through tears. I felt the helplessness and fierce determination entwined in their every breath. Then I was transported to Yemen, where famine and war had turned everyday survival into a desperate battle. I saw skeletal children with eyes too big for their faces, mothers weeping in silence, and aid workers risking everything to bring food and hope. I followed a convoy of volunteers navigating bombed-out roads, sharing smiles and whispered prayers despite the danger. Yet amidst these shadows, I saw flickers of light. In Syria, I watched groups of Muslims and Christians breaking bread together, sharing food, stories, moments of fragile peace amid ruins. Their smiles were weary but genuine, a testament to resilience and hope. I saw an elderly man offering his last loaf of bread to a child from the neighboring faith, and the simple act rippling through the crowd like a promise. Look also at Africa, Billy, Jesus said gently. Despite poverty, young people there sing songs of hope and weave bonds stronger than any hardship. They build dreams from dust and courage. I saw children dancing barefoot on cracked earth, their voices lifting like a chorus of unbroken spirit. I saw communities coming together to rebuild wells and schools, sharing laughter in the face of adversity. His message was clear and unwavering. The world is steeped in pain, fear, and hatred, but it is not lost. True power does not lie in weapons or armies or force. It lies in love, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Your mission, Billy, he continued, is to be this light. A living witness to the love that heals wounds deeper than flesh. Never repay hatred with hatred. Always respond with peace. His gaze locked with mine, and I felt a fire ignite within, a will that could not be quenched, a hope that would not be silenced. I saw ordinary people, men, women, children, choosing kindness amidst chaos. Communities reaching across borders, hands grasping hands, hearts opening despite fear and suspicion. Never doubt the power of forgiveness, he whispered. It is the key that breaks the chains of hatred. Slowly, the golden light of the garden returned. Jesus smiled at me, a smile full of warmth and understanding. You will return to your body, Billy. But carry this truth with you always. What you have seen is no dream. It is a spiritual reality ignored by many. Be a beacon in the night. Be a messenger of peace. And then I was back in a cold hospital room, the sterile scent of antiseptics sharp in my nose. My mother sat beside me, tears streaming down her face as she took my hand. But inside me burned a new light, a call to live differently, to heal more than just bodies. To heal souls wounded by fear and hatred. Since that day, everything changed. Every war, every conflict, every injustice became a personal call, a reminder that love, forgiveness, and peace are not just ideals, but acts of courage that can shift the course of history. I began to carry that mission in my everyday life, treating patients with renewed compassion, volunteering with organizations aiding refugees, speaking about the power of forgiveness in community groups. I met others touched by similar callings, and together, we formed bonds that transcended race, religion, and nationality. To you who hear my story, remember, true victory is never won by weapons. It is won by hearts that choose love, even when the world seems shrouded in darkness. That light, the unconditional love of Jesus, calls us all to be bearers of peace, to forgive, to love despite everything. I am Billy Miller. And today, I choose to live for that light.